Our reading from the Hebrew Scriptures today is taken from the book of Job, but it's the end of the book of Job. So you have to remember what Job is all about. It's all about a man facing enormous hardship who questions God and who questions God's goodness and God's plan. And this is kind of the resolution of the matter. Job 38, verses 1 through 11. Listen to what the Spirit might speak into your life today in this reading from Job 38 at verse 1. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man, I will question you, and you shall declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the heavenly beings shouted for joy? Or who shut up the seas with doors when they burst out of the womb? When I made the clouds their garment and thick darkness their swaddling band? And who prescribed the bounds for the seas and set bars and doors and said, thus far you shall come and no farther, and here shall your proud waves be stopped." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Deep water, if you haven't noticed in the Bible, is very often and most typically a thing of wonder, a thing of great fear. In the Psalms, in the book of Job, certainly with its Leviathan. In Jonah, of course, with the great fish. In Mark, in all the Gospels, and even in Revelation, the seas and the oceans are forever a thing of mystery, chaos, overwhelming awe. We did a quick beach vacation at the Delaware shore recently. Don't get me started on Delaware. We'll talk about Delaware another time. The water was cold, but it was good. It would be nice today. And I got from that trip what I always need from any encounter with the ocean, which is just a few hours by myself, just me and the ocean. I'm fine lounging under an umbrella on a crowded beach, bobbing in the waves, taking in the alien atmosphere of sun and sand and sea. It's not my world. I'm more created, I think, for hemlocks and ferns. But all human beings, I think, have a deep connection to the ocean, the mother of all life. And whenever I go to the ocean, a part of me knows kind of that it's come home in a strange way. When I spend a week with the family down at the shore, I always need just a few hours by myself, and they understand this. I have to find a stretch of deserted beach, some bird refuge or something, where I can sit in the dunes just above the strand and look out across that great ocean and just be amazed at all that I don't know and all the beauty of it and the age of it. The crashing of the waves is hypnotic. It's like the heartbeat of the world. The crying of the gulls and the terns, the light on the water, the sky, the light, airy breeze. I'm a little scared of the ocean, yes, and I love it at the same time, but isn't that the way it is with the things we fear? We're kind of fascinated by them. And you know what Carl Jung says? Where your fear is, there your task is. Where your fear is, there your task is. And so I wrote a parable about it. This is kind of a departure from most of my preaching style. But here goes. Wonder and fear were sisters. Irish twins, some say, though nobody knows really when they were born or who came first. If I had to guess, I would say fear is a little bit older than wonder. Wonder was fair to look upon and gentle in her ways, but fear was abrupt and ungainly. Still, fear got way more attention than wonder, but that bothered them not one little bit. Wonder and fear lived side by side, and since the beginning of time, they were always the very best of friends. Fear's house was big and ramshackle and rambling. It was endless, and the doors were always open wide, and Fear received visitors day and night, and she never turned anyone away. Fear welcomed everyone. Fear was always available. People knew they could always turn to Fear, if to nothing else. Wonder? Wonder had a tidy little cottage next door with a nice garden and birds in the trees. Wonder's door was always open too, but few people ventured across her threshold. I've puzzled over that one. Wonder was by far the sweeter of the two, a little more timid. Fear? Everybody knew Fear. Fear was a teacher in that town. Everybody had spent their season in Fear's classroom. Everybody thought they knew Fear. Fear was good at her job. Fear guided them in the straight and narrow. Fear kept them from getting in trouble. Fear kept them all safe. That was what she was supposed to do. She was good at her job. Fear was a good teacher, but her career in politics was an unmitigated disaster. For though Fear taught others to stay in their lane, she wasn't good at staying in her own lane. People should have learned not to give Fear too much power. But you know how public opinion works. They couldn't get enough of her. They loved Fear. Fear was inclined to overstep her bounds. Fear had served as mayor of the village on many occasions. And each time she did, the citizens cried, "Never again." Fear is a great teacher, but a terrible ruler. We never want to be ruled by Fear again. But did they stick to it? No. They returned to Fear again and again. Wonder? Wonder was dreamy. Wonder was a poet. Wonder was an artist by trade. Wonder had little use for praise or for power. Wonder spent her days quietly creating things of beauty to put across the village for people to discover. A lovely quilt, a kind word, the first snowfall of the season, a pink and orange sunrise. These were Wonder's often unnoticed gifts. It wasn't that people didn't like Wonder, they just didn't get Wonder. They didn't quite have time for Wonder. She had a small but devoted following. She was one of those souls with just a few close friends and a lot of acquaintances. Her sister Fear got her. Her sister Fear understood her, and that was enough for Wonder. Wonder didn't know this, but every time Fear got a visitor at her big house, on the way out, Fear would whisper to the visitor, "Now you go and pay a visit to my sister Wonder. She's just across the yard. I'm Fear. I show you your task, but Wonder gives you the strength to meet it." Wonder gives you the strength to meet your task. Did they listen? Rarely. For though many would let themselves be ruled by Fear, especially in times of uncertainty or pain, few indeed listened to Fear's wise counsel. They only listened to her when she yelled, like my kids. So they lived together for many a long year. Fear and Wonder, two sisters, side by side, the very best of friends. I still drop in on them both occasionally. And I can tell you they're still there, right where they've always been. Fear urges you to be safe. Wonder urges you to be open. Wonder is sweeter. Fear is more loved. Now, of course, the disciples in that boat at sea that was getting rocked by the waves, they did not have time for wonder. They didn't have time to marvel at the beauty of those waves, probably. Fear took hold. And there was Jesus in the stern, just sleeping like a baby in a rocking cradle. I've always thought maybe Jesus was a little hard on those disciples when he woke up and said, "Why are you so scared?" Of course they're scared. We would all be scared. Nobody knew how to swim back then. It's only after he has calmed the waves and probably gone back to sleep that they look at each other in wonder and say, "Wait, who is this guy? Here we are following this guy. What do we know about this guy? I mean, what do we really know? He just tells the wind and the waves to be still, and they are. And there he is sleeping. Who is this guy?" Wonder often follows fear. You get a little bit of background on this story in Mark if you do look to older books like Job, which is actually the oldest book in the Bible. In Job, you witness the old eternal struggle between the land god and the sea god, which is a constant theme in Near Eastern religion back into prehistoric times. And the superb poetry of Job describes the wonder and the fear of the seas at great length, giving us great sea monsters and Leviathan. And here at the end of that book, it declares that only the true God has power over these things. Only the true God lays a barrier that the sea can't get past, except, of course, when it does. What Mark is trying to do, I think, here is link Jesus to that true God of the land and say Jesus is the one with the power. Jesus is the one who can overcome the seas and command the waves. He's making a statement about Jesus' identity and Jesus' power. And as the disciples ponder it, their fear and their wonder mingle. Who is this? What have we gotten ourselves into? Getting in a boat with this guy. Fear and wonder still live side by side in our world and in our lives. I wish that we spent more time with wonder than with fear, or that we allowed our fears to mature into wonder. You know, fear is easy. We can all do fear. Anyone can be afraid. Fear is easy. We know it all too well. But the journey from fear to wonder shouldn't be hard. They're quite close. I learned a very long time ago as a small child that the thing we're scared of is usually something that fascinates us too. I believed that there were dinosaurs. Now, I had good reason. I believed that there were dinosaurs living in the attic of one of the houses we lived in. I had my reasons. And they were especially likely to fall through the ceiling above the stairwell. And so I always had to run up and down stairs. And to this day, though I no longer believe there are dinosaurs above the stairwell, I still kind of do go upstairs fast or down. And yet, I could not watch enough TV shows about dinosaurs, and I could not read enough books about dinosaurs. I was fascinated by the thing that scared me. Our fears show us things about ourselves. Maybe they show us a desire, a need, a weakness, an inadequacy, or a sensed inadequacy. Say a person is afraid of wide open spaces. Why is that? Who knows? Maybe that person was bullied and always had to find a place to hide. And the sea and the plains feels like too much exposure. There's no place to hide. I don't know. Some psychologists believe that the fear of big open bodies of water is really nothing more than the fear of the unknown inside of us, the unseen, the unfathomable, all that stuff that we don't want to face. And so let me ask you, and answer this just in the quiet of your mind. What's your fear? What's your fear? What are you afraid of? What might that fear be trying to say? What's that fear's lesson? If it's a fear of wide open spaces, is it time to move to Nebraska to face that fear? What are you afraid of? Where do you encounter Sister Fear? And what might her words to you be? What might her counsel be? What's her lesson? And have you ever heeded fear's advice to pay a call on her sister, wonder? Whatever fear is doing, she's not trying to kill us. She's not trying to ruin our lives. She's not even trying to rule the world, really. Fear's job is to keep us safe. Fear is kind of like pain. It lets us know that there's something there. It lets us know that there's an issue. It might even point us sometimes in the general direction of a cure. Fear has been used to control people and to blind people. Fear has a job, and we must not give it any more power than just its job, which is to keep us safe. Fear is a good teacher and a terrible ruler, but wonder, have you ever seen wonder get elected to public office? What would it look like to base your campaign, if you were a politician, on wonder? What would that even look like? We see campaign ads based on fear all the time. Fear of a bad economy, fear of crime, fear of immigration, fear of all kinds of things. We see fear-based ads. The terrorists are coming after your daughters. An ad based on wonder, what would it look like? Look how far we've come as a society. Look, in a universe like this, anything is possible. Imagine what we can do together. Would you vote for that? It might be kind of refreshing. Maybe we would. Would you vote for wonder if she ran for some elected position? Wonder admits to all the same vulnerabilities and all the same weaknesses, all the same smallness as fear. But fear stares out at the vast ocean and says, I wonder which is worse, to drown or to get eaten by a shark. Wonder stares out at the ocean and says, I wonder which is more magnificent, the beauty of the waves or the beauty of the deep. It has the same sense of how small we are and how powerless. But wonder is fear without self-interest. Just like fear, wonder knows that there are things beyond our knowledge, beyond our control, that we're really quite small in terms of space and quite brief in terms of time. Wonder knows we're not in charge of the world and its worries, but instead of telling us to play it safe and be on the defensive, wonder tells us to marvel, to stand in awe, to be amazed, to be humble, and to accept it. Wonder bids us to respond to the uncertainty, not with defensiveness, but with eagerness, a sense of discovery, a sense of humility. There's just so much fear in the world today. We are being manipulated by our fears. Many good and normal fears are being magnified and played upon for the benefit probably of those who want us to be afraid, of those who want us to spend more money, of those who find us easier to rule when we're afraid, those who want us to use our power to exclude and to villainize and to disempower. And oddly enough, fear's kind of addictive. Even fear, I didn't know this before researching this sermon, even fear gives you a little flash of dopamine, and it kind of makes you feel good. We can become addicted to fear. Isn't that strange? That's surely why people watch horror movies. I think George Romero and Stephen King have been making themselves rich off this, though I think Romero's dead, for decades. They know that we like to be afraid a little bit. It makes us feel good in a way. Some fearmongers don't work in film or in fiction. They work in politics or in churches or other religious institutions. Some are parents, some are spouses. Fear is a terrible ruler, but fear has one job: to keep us safe. Let's allow fear to do her job and nothing else. She's there to keep us safe, that's it. And maybe to show us areas that we should be working on. Where your fear is, there your task is. Wonder is there to bring us joy, to open our hearts to each other and to God. Wonder is there to give our lives a depth of meaning. That's the wind. a depth of meaning that no other thing can. Can you, the next time you feel frightened, nudge your fear in the direction of wonder? This might be hard, but can you ask, what is God doing here? Is God's hand in this at all? What's the bigger picture that I cannot see? How long has this weird thing been part of the plan? Is there a plan? Has this always been part of the plan for my redemption, for the redemption of the world? Fear is always nudging us toward wonder because fear and wonder are the best of friends. Our faith ancestors like us had so many fears. They were afraid of the skies. They were afraid of the seas. They were afraid of the unknown. You and I have a lot of fear. Could we, with some of them, trade them for a sense of wonder? Telling ourselves perhaps that somehow it's all part of God's plan and God's got it under control. Let us train our spirits away from fear and toward wonder. Amen.